Einer war in welchem Jahr, und das ist wunderbar.
Hey, everybody. Joe Lewis here, Battle Rankings Live. It must be Wednesday. We are here to bring you everything that's Flames of War and Team Yankee. My name is Joe Lewis. I am joined by my lovely and talented producer. Say hi, Ann.
Hi, Ann.
So we're here for it's Oktoberfest. I hope you all have your mugs filled. Why you see this mug? That's unscripted. Okay. Anyway, we're going to talk about the master list. So I have a copy of all the. In fact, I have a copy and electronically and paper-wise list strewn about, and I'm doing the analysis, so you don't have to. But I couldn't do it all. I said I needed some help. So I actually got a SME.
That's me!
An SME, subject matter expert. And I'm going to bring him on in. Jacob Meyer. Jacob, how you doing?
Just grand, Joe.
Okay. Jacob's joining us from Texas. And Jacob, I don't know if you remember this, but, first of all, do you know this is the 10th anniversary of Masters?
Of course. I have it marked on my calendar.
Of course. Everyone should, right? It's one of those quintessential holiday things. But you were in the second Masters.
Second or third? Yeah, my first one was a while back. Probably the second.
It was. Yeah, I looked this up. It was the second in which you won. So you are the second Masters winner. And I didn't go too much from there. I know you've been in a handful of other Masters. Did you win any others?
No, I've gotten progressively worse. The next year I got second, and then third, and then fourth, and now I think it's like my 10th year, so I'm not even in the top half anymore.
Well, I'd say I think it'll change.
Well, here's hoping.
Huh?
Here's hoping. Yeah. I'll keep at it.
Yeah, keep at it. You know what? Hey, I think there might be a future for you in this game. All right. Anyway, so like we do, when we start off here, we're going to go over the upcoming tournaments. Not much change from last week, except I think. This here in St. Petersburg, Florida, on November 21st. There's a Critical Hit Games. Out of nowhere, they posted they're going to do Late War 105 3 rounds. So that's good. But one of the things that's coming up is Millennium Con in Texas, which, Jacob, I believe that you're TOing.
Yep, that's the one I do every year. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do the Millennium Con convention last year, but we're back with a vengeance this year. And so the 13th is a Sunday tournament because it's part of a larger wargaming convention and something that we all look forward to every year. So we put the tournament on Sunday so we can all play the games we put on Friday, Saturday. I think it's even gone to Thursday now. It keeps getting bigger every year.
Oh, excellent.
Yep, we're going to do a escalation tournament for Late War, starting with 60 points, 80, 100, working our way up, kind of because we had some time constraints on Sunday. Plus, they run a fabulous flea market that I wanted to take a break for in the middle.
Okay.
I knew I was going to lose my players to the flea market if I didn't work in a break. So, we have shorter rounds for the smaller points, and that's why we chose to do an escalation tournament. Making a Toys for Tot tournament too, so we're collecting presents and going to do a little thing nice for the community there too.
Yeah. The Toys for Tots is going on. This is where I get to do the spiel because it works. So for Toys for Tots, what you do is you're first of all register like Jacob is with Battlefront, knowing that. What's Tom? Hold on a second. It's Tom says. Note that the D6 is the 30th. D6 is the 30th. Oh, right. That makes sense. That way you can have more of your players. Okay. Note that there, guys. I'll get that corrected. So for Toys for Tots, it's basically let Battlefront know that you registered. That way you, and by the way, it doesn't need to be a tournament. No, I prefer it because that's what what we do here. So I have some vested investments in having more tournaments, but it doesn't need to be a tournament. It could be a large scale, battle. It also could be, it could be Team Yankee, Flames of War, World of Tanks. Oh, what else they got going on? Oh, any of the Vietnam, Great War, in any of those games, and you get together. And then what you do is you get together and collect toys. What we'd like to do is you take a picture of the guys and the toys, and then we use that as kind of more publicity for gemming this thing up. So that people could see, oh, look, these guys are having fun. They donated, and they donated toys while playing with their toys. And then whoever's organizing it drops off the toys at the distribution center. Whoever is collecting make those arrangements, and then the players, their names go into a hat. Oh, by the way, if you run it or donate a toy, the TO is also eligible. Okay, so you get all those names in there, and then what Battlefront will do is I have to take a look at it. I'll have the exact details next week, but they will draw in the second week of December. They'll do a drawing, and 5 people will win armies. There's so many points, and you get to pick an army. Mostly they try to do it from the store stock, and then anything that's in the warehouse. If they don't have it, a little bit something going on this year. They don't have it. You need to pick something else. So they'll let you know if it's in stock or not. Well, it's because the shipping situation.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, well, because the thing is that you might ask for something, and if it all of a sudden takes 9+ months to get it, you might be a little sour. Yeah. Okay, and it has nothing to do with them. It's what's the situation going on. So they prefer that you pick from something that's already here in the States. So you get 5 army winners, and then there's the grand prize winner, which you win your height in boxes and you give them the list. And once again, that's one of those things. Preferably, not preferably. It needs to be in stock in the store that you go to, or in the Battlefront warehouse, because otherwise they don't want you to wait. And other things happen too. If they wait, people's memories forget, and best is to get it in. What's there, receive it, and I think everyone would be happier. Okay, so but that's the Toys for Tots thing. But the most important thing about that is that the toys gets collected for the children. If Toys for Tots is started by the Marines back in the 50s or something like that. I have to look it up exactly. And they collect toys for the in their area for to distribute to children that maybe just don't have the opportunity to get toys. or many toys or the circumstances. So the idea is that you're putting smiles on children's faces for the holidays, and which is really cool. It warms the cackles. Okay, and a couple of things. It needs to be a new toy. It cannot be wrapped, and it cannot be a weapon. So like a Nerf gun. And I will tell you, what happens to Nerf guns if they actually go there? The Marines take them, and all of a sudden they break out in big enough Nerf gun fights. So, I mean, if you want to make a Marine happy, go ahead and send one. But
It's not that far off from a child.
Yeah. It's kind of like if you don't know what to get, maybe a football. Yeah, football. Anyway, okay.
What's your eye out, kid?
So yeah, hey, we're getting closer to Christmas. So there's that. So start thinking about that, planning that, and basically you have November, and then I think the first weekend or two in December. I'll actually have the verbiage and the details next week because it just got okayed, but that's not what this show's about. But anyway, I just wanted to get it out there. Kind of go back to it. So far, and by the way, if you do have a Toys for Tots event, let me know so I can get it on the list here. Got Millennial Con, Game Table Adventures in Newark, Ohio. Able Company, that's the thing I run. I've been doing this for eons. Oh, by the way, Late War 77, Red versus Blue, we're doing Battle of the Bulge, opening night. And then Skoda Fest, they're also doing Toys for Tots. He's been doing Skoda Fest for a while. It is actually at a game store. Look for Skoda Fest for the details. And it's also, it's also a Toys for Tots event. Yeah. I have some good news. We haven't finalized Las Vegas Open, but we have for Adepticon. Adepticon is going to be mid-war, 6 rounds nationals. So it's going to be just like Historicon. It's going to be a Team Yankee, a 4-round Team Yankee on one day. So the points are little, or littler than your normal. And then 6 rounds, 2 days, mid-war for Adepticon. So, and by the way, it's all about transition. So, hey, Jacob, speaking of mid-war.
I hear Masters is mid-war.
It is. So, for those who are not familiar, we'll just go over it real quick. So basically all the source books for mid-war, it's 84 points, and the player picks one nationality, but has to come up with 6 lists, and each of the lists has to have 4 distinct differences from another list. So if you take 2 lists, put them together, there needs to be at least 4 points of differences. A command card could be a difference, but it's only limited to 1. So if you had 4 or 5 command cards, it doesn't matter. They all may be different, but you only get 1 point from that. A formation is another point, and different platoons. So at first, this is like, oh, this is impossible. But after looking at the list, it's not. It was not that hard. I think what people were worried about was the min-maxing list that you would normally do. You get that, I'm going to get this one strong list that I'm going to go and club baby seals with. That's not, maybe you had 2 excellent lists like that, and it started to degrade a little. Some more than others. It got some examples, and then the matchups themselves. You both secretly pick a list, and then you reveal it in the later rounds. By the way, if you if you win with that list, it gets removed from the tournament. So so if you play it and you win it, it's one and done. It's you're. But if you tie or lose, hey, you can use the list again. So there's all that.
Quick question, Joe.
Yep.
Are the players' remaining lists going to be public knowledge?
Yes.
Okay, so you can look at it and see your most likely opponent and kind of
Yep.
against it, huh?
Yeah. It's gonna be. We're Fretz is actually putting together a thing that we put on a clipboard, a big giant clipboard, and it'll have on whose lists are still available. So if you run all the tables and you win every game, you'll be forced to play all 6. So I think the winner is going to have to win 5. So that's pretty typical in the past. The person that's going to win is going to win 5. So good luck. By the way, before we go into the actual meeting details, if you like what you're seeing here and you want more of this, let us know by smashing the like button. Hit the smiley face, the heart, whatever you guys need. Just no frownies. Go ahead and leave information here. That this is what it's about. Remember, this is an interactive show. You could type things here. I interact with it. That's the reason we do it live. I don't pre-record it. The reason we do it live is because I want to hear from you guys and answer your questions and this, that, and the other. Now, here's the thing. We're going to go over the list or the list here. The thing is, these are people who play the game a lot, and they built lists. A couple things that came out are some trends that you saw that was in every list or something like that, or high probability being in there. That should tell you it's a go-to unit. So if you see some trends, we're going to point those out. So I kind of, maybe we should just kind of get into it. Let me see what we got here. So what I did, there's a list choices should depend on opponent's list. You can't be advised if every game isn't played like the last. Well, that's true. It's all about adaptability. You're going to have different lists. But let's go through it here and see what we got.
Now, I think the players are going to benefit from the ones that have a lot of variety in their list. That some list would work really well if your opponent lacks high anti-tank assets. There's some, you have a Churchill list or something to pull out that's just going to roll over them, or something to that extent.
Hey, I have one of those.
I noticed.
So I put this together. So I didn't quite. I whipped this together. I meant to throw something in the middle, but I'll just leave it blank. First of all, it turns out there's actually 9 Axis and 9 Allied players, which I believe is the I don't know. We think it's the first time that ever happened in Masters. So the first round is actually going to be red versus blue. First round, red versus blue. You won't play anyone in your own club or who you traveled with. So the field pretty much starts to narrow. Like, for example, the James Best Senior and Junior, one's Axis, one Allied. Well, they know they're not going to play each other. So that pretty much narrows it down to 8 other people that they could play. Things like that. So you can narrow things down. So I don't know. It says Axis. By the way, Jake, I was thinking of this. If you got like 2 like T-34 formations going at it, you hit on 2s. It's gonna be like a big slap fight. Just It just who can blow their saves first.
Yeah, that's right. It just comes down to the save rolls sometimes.
Yeah. Anyway, so what we got here, there were 8 German players. So there's 48 lists. 92% of the list had martyrs.
You may have heard my opinions on martyrs in one of my rants, Joe.
Well, you know what? I have, but the audience may have not. Why don't you give them your opinion on martyrs?
Battlefront released mid-war as their very first thing, and they mispointed a couple items in some of those early books. And martyrs are one of the grossest ones. And Battlefront's official policy is once it's in a book, you don't touch it. So every book after that first book, it had to be broken also. And you know that they realized that they messed up too, because the unit is actually more expensive in late war than it is in mid war. Nothing else goes up in points. It's not like martyrs are any better in late war than they are in mid war, but they realized they so egregiously messed up the points of martyrs in early war that they had to change it for late war. And so it is a no-brainer unit. And I think that's why you have so many German players, not for the German formations, not for the German core units, but for the martyrs and the second item on your list.
Okay. Ferdinands. So 21% of the list had Ferdinands. And by the way, there's one player in particular. He didn't like a Ferdinand. No. They needed to come in pairs. So 2 Ferdinands in a list.
That's a little questionable, as
Well,
the morale rating of those things is pretty bad. The last stand is still a 3, but the remount is a 5. Yeah, if one Ferdinand's in trouble, 2 of them are going to be in trouble too. I think
True.
one's great plenty.
Now, I was thinking, why would he take 2? The 84, so off the board is 34 points, and Ferdinand 17. So 17 times 2 is 34. Oh, I think I know what the reserves are. Or most likely to be. Yeah, a perfect reserve choice. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't know. We could be laughing. It will take out there and just, clean someone's clock and then be a one and done and say, well, yeah, hey, it won.
Well, it's not just one list that he took 2 Ferdinands. I believe he took at least 2 Ferdinands in 3 different lists. So if he wants to play 2 Ferdinands the whole tournament, he's got that option.
Right. Yeah. Where's? Yeah, I'll find it. But yeah, he took a lot of Ferdinands. Well, anyway, so then moving on, Tigers. Actually, they're the 6 Tigers. 6% of the list have Tigers in them, which I think comes down to 3. So 3 1-point Tigers. So
yeah, it's hard to justify the Tiger, which is 12 points more than the Ferdinand, where they fulfill a lot of the same role as your one big anti-tank unit. I think most people elected to take the 1 Ferdinand instead of the 1 Tiger. Because you could almost take 1 Ferdinand and 4 martyrs for the cost of a Tiger.
Yeah, which I think is probably the way to go. Well, I know when I was putting together a German list, looking at Germans, that's what I was looking at. It was basically martyrs, Ferdinand, and okay, now what? Now what?
Well, what really cheap core unit can I take to fit in all of these awesome support units?
Well, you know what? I found something you could do that with, Jacob.
That's I've never seen this before in mid-war.
Yeah, Armored Car Squadron. So we're not talking about the just one unit. We're talking about a formation of armored cars. 27% of the German list are German armored cars. And that I think that should tell you something there. And then, by the way, it's not like pretty much everyone had it. Almost everybody had a armored car squadron list.
I think it's the most common of all the German corps list is the armored cars.
Yes, and it was basically I can tell you what it is now. It's a 4 sets of the armored cars, the 1 IC armored car, the guys in half tracks, a Ferdinand, 4 Martyrs, a Wesp, and an Observer.
Don't forget the underpointed Italian support.
Oh yeah, that's right. And then 2 platoons and an HQ of I take the bigger tanks. So the AT6.
There was a mix of the two because that's a point of difference. I think you saw more variety than you would normally.
So that's pretty much like 84 points right there. So that's something you could take, and a lot of people did. Saw a lot of Wesps, especially with those kind of those lists. And then 52% were infantry lists, and only 21% were tanks. So almost everybody had a tank list, almost. And their tanks, pretty much all of them, the formation, were just the plain vanilla short Panzer III short 5 centimeter.
Yeah, there are more Panzer IIIs than all other German tanks put together, and I think that's just the point. They got the points better for the Panzer III. Especially if you're doing it as your core unit, if you buy the more expensive tanks, then you're not going to have enough points for all the great German support. So there are a couple long-barreled Panzer IVs. A couple people are really throwing convention to the wind and taking short barrel Panzer IVs. I believe they can still, those are the ones that can bombard in mid-war, right? So
right.
Those were the most popular German tanks. However, the most popular German tank was the Italian tanks. The L6 is the most popular tank in the German list overall, followed by the M1441s. So I think a lot of the list decided to go cheap Germans and then cheap Italian tanks instead of expensive German ones.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is, what's got put together. This is not like one group that plays, like where I'm at in Indianapolis or Minnesota or the Pittsburgh, Delaware, Dayton group. This was pretty much all those Kentucky, Virginia, all those groups put something together, and then they were all pretty much similar-ish when it came to some of this stuff. Where, as you could see the trends, pretty much on the Germans, you had Martyrs and then sprinkle in some Ferdinands, sprinkle in some armored cars. I'm going to take some infantry. Oh, guess what? I'm taking with the infantry, Martyrs and Ferdinands. You saw that too. Or the other one was 2 sets of types of Martyrs: the Martyrs and the Dianas.
Yeah, for 10 points, AT just losing 1 AT on those. That's a very nice buy also. And I originally thought they were the same slot. I looked at a couple of the lists and thought, no, you can't take Martyrs and Dianas. But no, it's in the Tiger slot. So you can take 2 groups of Dianas or Martyrs and Dianas, which is always fun when I think that's out of the in order to do that, though, you have to take your support out of the Africa book. If you take your support out of the Africa book, then there's no Ferdinand for you, and there's a couple other limitations. But
right.
Since there's got to be some variety in the list, you can't always take that Ferdinand Martyr combo. So I think that was well done, the people that mixed those two together.
And there was a bunch. I should probably have broken down how many actually had the Dianas also.
Yeah, that was another popular choice. Again, especially when you're trying to vary your list without actually varying your list.
Yep. Then the Soviets, which was the second numerous amount of players, including myself, there were 6 players, so that's 36 lists. The SU-76s, 19% of the list had an SU-76 in it, and when it did, it was a formation.
I think there was only one or two places where they took him as a support unit, but they are the best medium tank that's available to the Soviets in the game. That they, with 4 front armor, they're really that's medium tank armor in mid-war. I know it's nothing in late war, but that stands up pretty well against AT-9, especially at range in mid-war. So with an AT-9 gun themselves, and they're trained, whereas most of the T-34s and tanks like that are conscript. So they're a very solid unit, and the ability of being able to bombard. I really like them in five tank units, so that you get that reroll on the bombardment. So you can make sure that infantry, even though they don't have a machine gun and they're junk and assaults and things like that, they can shift infantry just through bombardment.
Yeah. Actually, I'm one that instead of taking a T-34 to support, I actually took a set of these guys, because I'm like, oh, do I want to bombard? I don't know. Do I want to shoot? I don't know. But guess what? I have an option. So I have a couple lists like that. Then T-34s, 25% of the list had T-34s in them.
That's the big thing that surprised me, because I almost never see T-34s in a regular tournament. I think people were looking for something that was immune to the tiny Italian tank, something that would be a good counter to those things. They have enough armor to hang around. They've got enough speed to get around to the sides of a Ferdinand. But that's something that you normally don't see in my experience.
Yeah. Now, what I was surprised is that my T-34s, I took the upgun option. What is it? Where instead of being an AT-9, it becomes an AT-11.
Yeah, the 57 millimeter.
Yeah.
Gun.
So I upgraded them. The other reason was because I took enough with the card that becomes my thanks, Chris Jackson or Johnson. Oh, hey Johnson. The 57 millimeter. The whole thing was with that becomes my one platoon reserves.
Yep. Light tank, that's a good unit. Come on.
But I saw a lot of people take the early because they get the discount.
Remind me the difference of the early?
The 3+ instead of 2+ on the cross check.
Wow. That does make it a little bit more hairy, but I don't think it's a breaker. Was it a point to tank?
It not quite that. I think 6 tanks was like 32. No, like 33 to 31.
Okay, so
yeah,
maybe half a point a tank,
something like that. But yeah, you get a little bit of discount. But there's a lot of neat things you can get for 1 or 2 points in a Russian list.
Yeah, you can upgrade their morale ratings.
Yeah, morale ratings.
A lot of people did little changes like that to vary up their list.
Yeah, true.
You saw a lot of cards in these lists that you don't normally see in tournaments. Also, I'd actually buy the Forces card packs for a couple of the nations just to figure out what the cards do. So a bunch of T-34s. Then there's the KV list. 19% KVs. I don't have high hopes for the KV. The KV is just so easily countered by the Ferdinand or to a lesser extent the Martyrs that when I've run KVs, I think my longest rant was at Masters for Team Yankee at the side tournament when I ran the KV company against Brian Coaches and his I don't know, dog shit list. And the one that you ran to the next 2 tournaments after that. So that list, the KVs are just absolutely impudent against some of those, especially if they have to advance across any open area whatsoever. They're just easily shot to pieces. So good luck to all the people who brought KVs.
Well, and then what kind of surprised me is that only 11% of the list have Churchills.
I think anything that the KB's armor will hold up to in mid-war, the Churchill can also for a slight discount. And so I do like the KVs is not the KVs, the Churchills is kind of a counter to some of the lighter tank list. There are several lists in there that just don't have anything above 18, 9, or 10. And when you run into Churchills against an army like that, you are going to be severely disadvantaged.
Yep. Now, here's something that doesn't surprise me, but we're not talking about having a BA-10. It's a BA-10, the card, the core. That's 10 BA-10s. 50% of the list have these 7-point wonders.
Yeah, that goes back to my original point that Battlefront just dropped the ball on the initial pointing of armored cars. It's not just the BA-10s. As we said, the Germans have 27% of their list. The only other nation, well, okay, you had some Italians, and some Italians even took the Italian AB-41 armored cars. But the third most popular list was the British, and the British took lots of armored car lists also. The Umbers with their 15-centimeter guns, they're just so ridiculously cheap. If you put a machine gun on an armored hull, it's got value. And if you're paying less than a point for each one of those, then it is just a no-brainer buy. You mix those, like the BA-10s do a great job of like overcoming the shortcomings of the Su-76s. The Su-76 doesn't have a machine gun. Well, if they're backed up by 10 BA-10s with 4 machine gun dice apiece, then infantry are going to stay away from your Su-76s. For a grand total of 7-point investment, it's another formation that makes you harder to break. The Su-76 formation doesn't have any options beyond the Su-76, so that you don't want to throw the game. If you lose 2 or 3 platoons of Su-76s quickly, you back it up with a cheap 7-point 10s. I think that's just a no-brainer buy for all lists. I think the only reason why you don't see it in the 100% is because people had to vary their list some.
Yes.
But they don't have the very expensive BA-10s.
Yeah, and Fretz here says, and all those deployment drops in the meeting engagements. Yeah, because that's 4 platoons right there of guessing.
They are Soviet recon though, so they're slow as sin. I think their dash is 10 inches or something like that.
Oh
so,
yeah,
you're not with the Soviets. There's a lot, and forget going into the trees with your cross of 6 and your terrain dash. They're as bad as they can be, but they still have a machine gun, they still have a gun, so they're worth their points.
Yep. Then the last interesting thing. Oh, not the last interesting thing is that the recon by combat card.
Yeah, the skill of the mid-war Soviet artillery and mortars is just, they're so cheap, but they're so bad in skill rating that you don't want to have to range in too many times during the game. And so if you have the reconnaissance by combat card at the very beginning, that's pretty much a free range in right on top of your opponents. Last year in the late war Masters tournament, Chris Fretz used the reconnaissance by combat card to drop artillery right on my von Socken character and sniped him out. In a bunch of spectacularly failed rolls on my part, but sniped him and got him on the top of the first turn with that card, and nothing ruined my game plan quite as much as the reconnaissance by combat.
All right. He says, yes, I did. And the 2IC too. He remembers.
I did. I played this back in my head. There's nothing else I could have done. I knew these guys were going to be a target, so I had them out by themselves. So they're the only 2 under the template. Both of them have multiple teams that they can jump to within 6-inch range. So he would have to hit both of them, kill both of them. I would have to fail my jump to another infantry team, and I had the lucky card on top of that. So all that series of events that led to their death was quite low, but it was a very effective use of the reconnaissance by combat card.
Was this at Wolf Creek or something?
Oh yeah, maybe it was Wolf Creek. Maybe it was not at a Masters tournament. Yeah, Wolf Creek sounds right.
Yeah, I remember you guys talking about that. And I just thought it was recently. But anyway, but yeah, the recon by combat card, it is a in bowling we would call that handicap. It's the handicap card. Chris says it was at Wolf Creek. So yeah, it's the handicap card. But the thing is that you got to make sure you're not in a meeting engagement to get the use out of them.
Yep. After that incident, I forced a lot of meeting engagements for the rest of that tournament so that I would see that fiasco again.
Yeah, I did notice something with the some of the lists that the British tend to get the 17 25 pounders.
Yeah,
for like their but it's only anti-tank 12, and I saw a lot of 3 guns and 4 guns.
Yep.
And then I saw the Germans, a bunch of them, a handful of them, actually took one thing of 88s.
Yeah, that's very optimistic. I guess maybe they're thinking an ambush unit, but I can never see dropping that ambush unit instead of the Martyrs. Not quite sure what they hope to accomplish with that. But in a Masters level tournament, I think gun teams are rarely worth their points. A lot of players are going to use terrain and smoke and artillery to make gun teams nigh worthless for a lot of these situations. So I saw a lot of people, especially the British, took a lot of gun teams, and so they're relying on those to pull some weight.
So let's. So speaking of lists, what we did is we each picked 2 lists to review, and Jacob, this was the first one you came up with. What made you pick this list?
Well, this list cherry picks practically every broken unit in the mid-war tournament. And it most impressive in that I think it uses units from 4 different books as support here. We have the North African armored cars, which are better than the Bagration armored cars because you can take 4 in a platoon rather than 3. But you take your core support from the Eastern Front, so you can fit your Ferdinand and your Martyrs in there. Chris has taken Panzer IIIs in there. Chris is more fond of the Panzer IIIs than I am, but he has used them to great effect, and it fills that nice AT slot. And then you pair those up with the 1 point per veteran tank L6 40s for your machine gun carriers and an assault unit. Remember, in mid-war, the infantry are absolutely terrible against tanks. Late war, most of the anti-tank weapons are either U.S., which are completely unrepresented in the tournament, or they're late war only. So these L6 tanks can often roll over Soviet infantry, not because the Soviet infantry are bad, but because the Soviet infantry don't have that recourse against them.
No, they don't. And then, as Patrick says here, there's a lot of pew in that list.
Yeah, well, the Martyrs and the Ferdinands do the heavy lifting, and the Panzer III makes sure you don't get around to their side, and don't scoff at the L6 tanks. Those things are well worth their points, and it's being forged to hit. If you're shooting at them, it's a victory for the German player because you're not shooting at one of their more valuable units. But if you ignore them, they're going to keep your infantry pinned down for the entire game, and they can mess up some light tanks.
Yeah. Fred's here asks, Johnson, sorry. I keep seeing Chris's. What about PTRDs for those Soviet infantry?
I do think that PTRDs are a very worthwhile buy for the Soviets in mid-war. They can keep those little tanks off of you. Some lists can take 2 of them even one of them has rate of fire 4, 2 while pinned, that can keep these little tanks off of your infantry for at least a period. But if you pin them down, both PTRD shots have to hit in order to turn back the assault. And since they're veterans, you're hitting on 4s. If the Italian player is crafty and makes them concealed going into the combat, you're probably not going to hit both of them. And even if you hit both of them, they still have some save against them because the PTRDs are AT5.
Yeah,
so yeah, so I mean, it's 50-50 whether you're even going to bail them out if you hit them. So it's far from a foolproof defense against them, but I certainly think it's worth its points in mid-war. If you're going to take mid-war infantry Soviets, I would recommend the PTRDs.
Yeah. Okay. Now Fretz says, or the PTRD platoon is dirt cheap, which it is. Or he did not take one, nor did I. Because I would have had to paint it. That was the. I had plenty to paint already.
No.
That was a lot of my list was based on like how much could I paint and get done by then.
Yeah, one caveat on these platoons is they're really only effective as defensive units. Once you step out of your holes against that many light tanks, you are going to be machine gunned into oblivion. So the infantry are wherever you put them, you better want to keep them there the entire game because there's very little infantry movement against this number of vehicle machine guns.
Yeah, it'd be like Cassidy and Sundance in Bolivia.
Yeah, you come out of the church, you're getting it.
Yeah. But I think this list here represents pretty much the philosophy of every armored car list that was there. A bunch of armored cars, though no infantry in this one, which is interesting. I always take infantry at some point, but there's no infantry. You got the Martyr and the Ferdinand, and then some allied tank support, cheap tank support. If it wasn't the L6, L40, it was the 38T or Finns or something like that. We kept seeing those themes go through there.
Yeah, 4 out of Chris's 6 lists are essentially a version of this. And then he's got a little bit of variety in that a Panzer III company. And so his lists are strong all around, and I think they're set up to take all comers. Heavy tanks, light tanks, medium tanks. He's got lists that can handle all of them. So I think Chris has a very well-balanced list composition.
Yeah, I heard he was being coached.
Yeah. No, I hope I'm not. It's not who I'm thinking.
It is.
No, Chris doesn't need to take advice from anyone. He's a very experienced and well played player. So if he's taking advice from who I'm thinking he's taking advice for, then that can only hurt. I did have to look up who Albert Dressel is. So Chris, next time I see you, you owe me $3 for the German command card pack because I had never heard of Albert Dressel before. But he seems to be a pretty good character since he modifies an entire platoon instead of just a single tank. So,
what does Albert Dressel do?
He allows his platoon to re-roll 2 failed to hit rolls. And so a lot of mid-war cards you play for the commander, and it's unlikely that you're going to get a whole lot of use out of it because if your commander hits, then the card's completely useless. But if you're firing an entire platoon, it's likely that 2 of your tanks are going to miss, and so you're much more likely to get some use out of that card. Chris must have needed another difference in his list. I think the points probably would have been better spent on another L6 platoon. But Albert Dressel is a very interesting card that if you're running Panzer IIIs, it's a consideration.
Wait, does he only attach to Panzers?
He is I think he has to be a Panzer III. So he might be able to do Panzer IV. So it's either Panzer IIIs or Panzer IVs. And he has to be part of the platoon rather than the commander. So
okay,
it's
all right.
Interesting.
So it's not like you can attach him to the Ferdinand.
No. It doesn't specify every tank platoon. He has to be in whatever he historically ran around in. I assume he's not a made-up character like all the Soviets.
Yeah, Colonel Mudd, General Snow. Okay. Anything else for this? Because we'll go on to a list that I picked next.
Nope, go right ahead.
Okay.
Never see that list again. I'll be thrilled with Midwar.
I picked this one because, because it's definitely different. It's Ed Hall's his pant. It's this. I just call it. You want some? It is a shell of a Panzer Grenadier company. Even though they're full teams, he does add one of the 2.8 centimeters to it, and he does add the some 5 centimeter anti-tank guns, and his only bombardment unit are 2 Selma Aventis, and he does have 2 Panzerknacker cards. So I'm thinking that, hey, I'm going to hold the objectives, and if I need to, I'll slap down a Panzerknacker card on my Panzer Grenadiers, and you take that. Meanwhile, I'm just holding out for that when my 2 Panthers show up. Boy, you are in trouble. So this was definitely a different thinking list. That it's like the little brother, big brother. The little brother just needs to hold out until the big brother shows up. So yeah, I just picked it because I just thought it was interesting about how he has 2 Panthers. Matter of fact, it's the only list that has Panthers.
Yep, and yeah, all of his lists were interesting. One, he has a Tiger. One, he's got long Panzer IVs, and so there are a lot of units that you don't normally see in Ed's list. So I'm interested to see how he does. And if he wins it all, I think we should make him Masters champion for life.
Well, Ed is he definitely thinks outside the box. So,
he's
but
definitely
I picked this one just because of it's different from any other list out there. And by the way, it's one of the few that actually gave command cards for the infantry, the Panzerknackers. So,
have you ever successfully used one of those cards?
No.
I think that's one of the great injustices of mid-war, that they took away like kind of the pioneer permanent better AT, that it made the infantry so weak against tanks if they don't have a built-in Panzerfaust or bazooka. So That's something I miss. I miss a lot. I really wish that Panzerknacker card would work a little bit better than it does.
All right, now we're going to go on to your second pick. Fretz's, we just called the B list, the Su-76.
Yeah, he has a couple versions of the Su-76. This is my favorite of the ones. It's got both a Su-76 and a BA-10. So both of those companies are as thin as it gets. Only the core platoons are the Su-76s and the BA-10s, and you can't take anything else. So I really like how he has 2 formations here. It'll stop a couple bad rolls from breaking his entire company. He's got the machine guns to back up the Su-76s. The Su-76s should handle medium tanks, and hopefully this is not a list that you would want to play against heavy tanks. The Churchills would have a field day against these. But against lighter and medium tanks, this is an excellent list. This is what I like to run for mid-war. He's got the reconnaissance by combat. For him, it's only 1, which is must be used with the 5 Su-76 platoon. And he's got a platoon of infantry, which personally, I kind of like to take Stuarts in that last slot for a little bit more anti-tank and machine gun firepower. But the infantry will be able to push off the heavy tanks that he won't be able to kill. So I can certainly see why he included it. I think this is the pinnacle of Soviet technology in mid-war.
It's the pinnacle. Yeah. And the Valentines too. So
Yeah, the Valentines, they're impervious to a lot of the little Italian tanks. So they're good at holding a objective on one side, holding a flank by themselves. They're not going to kill a whole lot. They've got a little pop gun themselves. I see he replaced some of them with 6-pounders. That's is it late war where you pay 1 point for the entire platoon, and mid war you have to pay 1 point for each one?
yeah, and it's up to half.
Yeah, and I know that they have to give up their machine gun to get that. So, and these must be late ones, and so you also get slow. Is it slow firing or awkward layout or whichever one that they call it these days? And so I know it's not a lot of points, but I'm always torn about what I want these tanks to do and whether that 1 point actually makes them more effective. It gives them a chance against certain vehicles where only 2-pounder weapons would not have one. So a chance is better than no chance.
Oh, yeah. He's saying that, and I should figure this out because I have some Valentines too, that the Valentine is not slow firing for the 2-pounder.
Yeah, the early 2-pounder is slow firing. The late 2-pounder is not. But when you go to the 6-pounder, it gets slow firing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Personally, since they're kind of an objective holder for me, I very often go the early Valentines for the little bit of savings. And really, all I want them to do is remain a fleet in being, so that objective doesn't crumble, and I can concentrate my Su-76s on the other side to take an objective.
Right. Actually, yeah. The 2-pounder is just no heat. So.
Yeah. Well, they're not there to kill infantry. They've got a machine gun to do that. They can repel an infantry assault, especially if you've got 5 or 6 of them with machine guns. So they're good against both light tanks and infantry when it comes to holding an objective.
Yeah.
They're also going to essentially, your artillery is not going to knock them off themselves. Their top armor. So they're good static unit. I much prefer these than 20 points of infantry trying to hold an objective.
Oh, hey, we got a dungeon story. Killed a 30 with a 6-pounder Valentine once.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I heard there was a meteorite that killed a cow one time. It's not likely, but it happens from time to time.
Happens time, right? No, so that's pretty good. And then my second pick, I went with okay. This is this one. This is John Mayer. So this is pretty typical of a Panzer III, but he has something different. So that's what brought this out. So he's using the Panzer Company RC command card. So that's in Ghost Panzer.
Yay!
And he went with some longs for the HQ, which is interesting that 2 longs equals 3 shorts almost. But in that formation, he's allowed to take these Borg Warner carriers. Okay. And a couple shows ago, John and I were talking about these. He brought it up, but here he decided to go to it. But a Panzer III company with a Wesp, a spotter, some recon, and 4 martyrs. That's here he is. He is the king of the Bargwards. Yes. So what is this little Borg Ward thing? That's a picture of it there. You get 4 of these. So I looked it up to see how these things work. First of all, they're electronic, so I don't know how they have a motivation, but there they are. They're hit on 3s. That's a good thing for people defending against them. So these little RC control cars, So a tactical of 12, cross country is 16. But the thing is, they do have a cross of 4. So the way it works is that you need to move it into assault range of your target. Once it's there, you need another tank, which would be one of these Panzer IIIs or the Stug Late. That's what they originally were for, but so I guess they rigged them up for some Panzer IIIs also. So your Panzer III RCs need to control them, and so the unit that's controlling it, that tank cannot move or shoot for the turn. So it's kind of like this. You need to move that guy into position. Then the next turn, he needs to then control the unit to attack. Now, once you have all those conditions, what happens is during the assault phase, this thing moves in. So you move in to next to your like you're assaulting. The player that's about to get blown up has defensive fire. If you notice that its sign is a 0, so maybe a rifle could do something, but here's the deal. It doesn't worry about bales. It totally ignores bales. So you have to kill it. And by the way, if you do kill it, the player that's attacking rolls on a 1 or 2, it blows up anyway. Okay.
Better.
It does. Okay, so what happens when it blows up? Well, it's a template size weapon.
Do
So it's a template.
Do you fire it at an enemy unit, or do you get to place it in a spot?
No, you play where it's at. Its center is the template.
All right, so you can shoot it into the second rank. You don't have to just blow up the first rank. You can put it deep into the formation.
Yeah. Pretty sweet. So you drive it right on in. So you basically you move it, and then you get your 4-inch move as if you're assaulting. So you have to do all the assaulting rolls. So you move it to your target. Yeah, you place this as the center of it, and then everyone under the template, it auto ranges in. Well, it's there. It's centered on itself. So auto ranges in. And then the worst thing is it auto hits everything in under the template. It is brutal. So that means infantry and gun teams need to reroll saves. And the firepower is auto. So if you blow your save, you're gone. And it has an anti-tank 4. So that means if it hits a vehicle that has armor, you take the top armor to the 4, as if it was a hit from the top. Yeah. He has 8 of these things.
Which is the number of Panzer IIIs he has. So a couple questions come up. If the Panzer IIIs die, do the Bogwards go away?
Yeah, because there's I don't think they go. I don't know if they go away, but they are useless.
To launch them.
If you take out all the Panzer IVs, they're useless.
Well,
or
do
threes.
do they count for morale? Do they keep your formation in good spirits?
I believe so, because they are part of the formation.
And when you assault with them, do you have to make contact with an enemy team?
Yes.
So that limits the placement. What about if you're assaulting? Can you assault a building with them?
Yes.
But they're a tank unit.
It is a tank unit.
So if you're in an infantry building, are you immune to these?
No, hold on. That's a good question. A tank units, it's still you still use the assaulting rules. I'm gonna look at the book and see if I can say that. It's a very great question.
Yeah,
so I'm going to go where those things are. If you're following along from home, it's in Ghost Panzer on page 41. Remote control. Oh, well, actually, It's actually in the front.
I wonder what the rule for demolitions attachment states also.
Well, okay, so there's two parts. It's controlled tank. It's fitted with a special radio, blah, blah, blah. In the assault step, instead of assaulting, the controlling unit may not move or shoot this turn, may take control of the carrier, and its demolition attach that is demolition attachment that is within 20 inches in line of sight. So you need to be within 20 inches in line of sight. When it does so, it can move up to 4 inches. Oh, as if it was charging into contact while launching an assault, or remain in place. Ah, there you go. Or remain in place. So you could just come up as close as snug. Basically come and give that building a hug.
You would still have to keep the 2 inches away, right?
Yes.
The zone of control.
Right.
So you
You're
could
still 2
blow
inches
it
away.
up
But
and just get a small portion of the building.
But it is a big template, right?
Yeah.
Then the enemy then conducts defensive fire, whether or not the carrier moved. So you still get to shoot at it. So even if you just butt it up against the closest to the building as possible, whatever's there still can get to shoot at it. And then if it's not destroyed, if it is not destroyed, then it attacks with the demolition weapon, which then is the explosions part. How much is 500 kilograms in pounds?
1250. 1250. Right? Rough.
So
Was it 2.6 to 1?
So it's like half a ton of explosives.
Yeah, 5/8.
Good lordy. Okay, that's a lot of nitro. The carrier can only make an attack when the demolition is controlled. It takes control of it, which is above. Okay. The artillery bombardment is an automatic ranged in and automatically hits all teams under the template. Remove the barbed wire carrier from play after resolving this bombardment. That makes sense. Goodbye, cruel world.
Yeah.
The bombardment automatically removes any minefield token under the template. So if you want to make a hole, there you go. If the barbed wire demonstrates carrier is destroyed before removing it from play, roll a die. What the heck? On a 1 or 2, it immediately attacks as if it was a demolition weapon. So basically, you took it out, but you must have hit that red wire, and it goes off anyway.
If it was within 4 inches, it's coming still at you.
Yeah. So
That is something else. I was looking through the attachment rules. I mean, I'm concerned that his core platoon only has 3 small platoons of Panzer IIIs, and the other 2 platoons are suicidal. That's going to be hard to keep on the table.
Well, a lot of people, instead of listening to what I asked, which was, could you mark all your lists with an A, B, C, D, so that we could keep track of it? He named his. This one's called Special Occasions.
Oh, yeah. So I am in the last game, and I have nothing but fun to win. So
that could be it.
I see it.
Or he's like looking at, oh, you only have infantry. Guess what? This is coming your way. That kind of thing. I don't know. What he will deem a special, or the special could pay. It could be, hey, I'm playing Joe, so I'm going to use this. Yeah. And as Patrick says, when you care to only send the very best.
I'm looking at the attachment rules, and so it's going to have to be attached to one of those platoons. It does count as a separate unit for last stand tests, so while they're around, they will stick around. But if the controlling unit is destroyed, its transport detachment runs away. All other types of attachments continue to fight if their core is destroyed. So you can't run them off by killing the Panzer IIIs. So I guess it's 5. He's got 5 core platoons.
All right. Yeah, but if you take these out, what are these things going to do anyway?
Yeah, I guess they'll keep the martyrs on the table. That's what's important.
Oh, yeah, good point. And it's all about the martyrs.
It's all about the martyrs.
So what is your general opinion about the lists?
The general opinion about the list, I think there's a lot of variety. I think there's a lot of interesting parts. I mean, more than it's not just that you force people to kind of break they were using, but they were also allowed them to kind of check their list against certain opponents, certain possibilities. And so I think it's really interesting. It's something I really hadn't thought of until I looked through the list, that like, oh, this list is terrible against a lot of things, but it would be really good against one particular type of opponent. And so I think the players that built their list that way have a distinct advantage over people who just tried to vary the same one list over and over and over again. So I think it was actually, in some ways, it was a big advantage to submit multiple lists rather than, I kind of originally saw it as a handicap, but I'm now seeing it as a possible advantage against certain lists.
Brett says here the challenge changes will be very interesting. Yeah, that's true. So I think that's about it. By the way, I did get my my stuff painted. I'm kind of beautifying some stuff, adding more detail. I know it doesn't come really. Hold on, let me see if I can get it to go. See if I can get the camera to look at it. So my it doesn't really focus that good. But my KVs, I never used the KV before, but I got that. I don't know. I think it's for the fatherland or whatever it is written on there. I think that looks pretty good. I was pretty stoked about that. I got the little Stewarts, even though I only have one list with the Stewarts. Oh, by the way, a lot of people, if they were going with the tank list, ended up with the Lees as an option. Go figure.
Yeah, the Lees, most people took long barrels on them too, which that's a substantial investment to upgrade them to the long barrel. So I was a little surprised to see that.
I don't know. Well, why bring 9 when you can bring 10?
Well, you could bring more of the 9s, the Soviet quality of quantity.
True.
But the Stewarts can be taken core in that formation. I think that makes a big deal because the Stewarts, 7 Stewarts is just a great buy in mid-war. But,
yeah. And Patrick just gave me the opportunity here. Can't wait to watch the live stream this weekend. Yes, we will be live streaming. It'll be live streaming this weekend. Yeah, I'm gonna set that up, and we're gonna pick a table like we've done before, so yeah, we're gonna be live streaming so you can watch from home. Be watching here on the battle rankings thing. We'll be doing Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. So we got our YouTube channel. I know we are a multimedia empire.
Yeah, we printed out like business cards. That CEO of a multimedia.
Yeah.
empire.
Well, I got a producer, right?
Rather than like the master shirts, if
Wow.
one year you would put like Joe Lewis like multimedia empire shirts, that would be a nice prize for masters one year.
Yep.
I've got my own side of the closet for the green ones.
So, what's the Austin here says, Okay, guys, the most important question: what's your breakfast of champions you'll have before the game day? I don't know, probably. I got Jackson staying at my place. We'll probably drive through McDonald's and get a on the it's not a dollar menu anymore. It's $1.38 a biscuit, a sausage biscuit. I don't know what they put in that biscuit dough. It's maybe like crack or something. I don't know.
they brush it with butter. Oh, it's good stuff. Biscuit hash browns for $2. Can't go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, eat that on the way there. Oh yeah, it reminds me, I gotta send an email out. Okay. Hey, before I forget, okay, so let's go through all this. I'm having a discussion with Battlefront about points because everyone wants to know the points. So I've been poking them on it. Jacob, I'm going to ask you first, and then which is also I'm going to be asking everyone who's watching this to go ahead and type. For mid-war, what do you think is an ideal point range for mid-war?
I think mid-war of all of the periods can trend upward and not ruin the game. So I'm okay anything from a 90 to 110. I mean, I think 100 is just perfectly fine for mid-war.
Okay, so 90 to 110. By the way, there's a little bit of delay, so we'll see. Everyone who's watching, why don't you go ahead and type what you think the range is. We got Copeland 75 to 100, 80 to 95. That's a good one. 90. See what else. Who else comes up with stuff? Yeah. Then let's see who else come up. Then the next question is late war. Rich just had to be different. Had to go with 105. Small points in mid-war are challenging fun games. Well, that is true. But it just becomes armored card battles, I guess. What about late war? What do you think the sweet range for late war is?
Again, I don't have any late war at 100 points, and so anything close to that, fine for me. I don't think they need to decrease the points. I am hoping that you have a third follow-up question. That's where I have my strongest opinion.
Which one?
I hope you ask for the third scenario. Team Yankee is where I this is really the only one.
I'm working that way.
Opinions about the point level.
Yeah. So 100, 110, 105, late war 95 to 105. Okay. All right.
Until the German Bulge book comes out, I wouldn't mind seeing higher points so that you can play some of the American tanks that are coming out. But once you start getting into quality Germans, I think high point levels are going to be oppressive in some cases.
Okay. Rich staying consistent at 105. All right. Now, what about? By the way, if you're watching this later in reruns, just go ahead and type your suggestion. It keeps track of it. And then I'm going to go back and let them know what people said. This is, by the way, what we call an informal poll. So it has a margin of error of 50%.
Anything between 50 and 150 is the first margin of error.
Yeah. Okay. What about Team Yankee?
70 to 80 points.
Wow. Okay. You go there.
Yeah. Well, okay. Again, Team Yankee is totally messed up because those low point totals would preclude you from running any heavy tanks, and it's like the Reverend's wife and The Simpsons. Will somebody think of the poor heavy tanks or whatever? But in tournaments, nobody runs that garbage, and it's just masses and masses of armored fighting vehicles and crap tanks, and it just becomes a mat of crap on the table. It is just stuff everywhere. So you have to just ignore the heavy tanks. The Leopard 2 A5 should not be taken into consideration. Think about how many BMPs or Marder 2s that I can take at 65 points, and it's great plenty. It doesn't clog the table like higher point levels do. You have to keep Team Yankee low, or Team Yankee's a mess.
Okay. Rich, you didn't say it's consistent with 105. You went with 95. Okay.
See, it's lower at least.
Lower, yeah. He went lower. Yeah, it's interesting. Team Yankee went lower. Everyone went higher on the thing. Okay. All right. Well, what would you think like a mid-war 120? Is that ridiculous?
I don't think it would ruin it, but there's nothing new coming out in mid-war, so I'm okay if the points stay roughly the same. I would rather have 120 late war than mid-war.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, especially with some of the new toys. I can't wait.
They're trying to move product for late war. Upping the point total for late war is probably their most likely.
Understood. Yeah.
If they're not producing any mid-war stuff right now, they probably don't have a whole lot of incentive to up the points.
Yeah, mid-war 120. That's a lot of Crusaders. That is a lot of Crusaders. All right, so we're getting to the point where Jake, I don't know if you've been watching lately, but this is a copy translation of the Panther training manual. Okay.
No, I thought it was the small church mouse.
What, the Panther Furble?
Oh, I thought it was Fieble.
Fieble? F-I-B-L-E?
Isn't that the name of the old Disney cartoon, the little church mouse? Okay. Maybe I'm the only person that old.
Yeah. Well, in it, they have the original artwork, okay? And they translate it from the German into English. But in doing so, the thing is that it is in rhyme, okay? And so they made it in English in rhyme. And so what we've been doing is been going now. The Beverman Tank Museum did this as a Kickstarter. I got in the ground floor. Matter of fact, I'm actually thanked in the book, but I was as a contributor, which was pretty cool. I didn't expect that. I'm like, it was around Christmas time, and I said, oh, hey, yeah, so that sounds cool.
What did they rhyme with Lewis?
What's that?
What did they rhyme with Lewis?
Oh,
what do they rhyme with Lewis?
Yeah, I don't know.
They just made a list of names at the end.
Oh.
Yeah, they just put the list in, contributors in the front. By the way, they also have the original target sheets. Okay, and so they have an Eastern front and a Western front in the book, so it's pretty cool. So we've been doing is that we have our studio is haunted. I don't know if you know that.
No, I recall this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Panzer Ghost who used to be with the Ghost Panzers.
Hello.
Yeah, and Panzer Ghost, and what we asked Panzer Ghost to earn his keep here is to read a little from this book every segment, and we're getting through it. There's the tab, so we like do a page at a time, and this subject has to do. Last we were doing was learning how to correct the sights. Okay. And just do the first page. So
of course, I got to do a cold read here because you didn't give it to me ahead of time.
No, but I had to talk about the book. All right. Oh yeah, as Patrick says, we have deep thoughts with Panzer Ghost.
I'm only going to do one page this time.
Yeah, one page.
First page.
So now I got to do your intro.
Okay.
Poetry Corner, read by Panzer Ghost.
This one is called the Trefferleiter. Okay. Let's put a target on a chart and fix the pointers on, ready to start. Shoot at it. but after every hit, move 100 meters further out from it. Then, like a ladder up you climb, shots go up the steps in time, sitting nicely upon each rung. Distance is each line where he's sprung. Where the HE sprung, I'm sorry. But for AP ammo, however, go up just half it for each rung and level. Soon you'll find out as we go on why this is so gratifying thereupon. But we look at this whole place first, just for the shells and explosive outburst. So play a string on the violin, you'll soon see it wears a little thin. But up higher up the scale you can climb, smash to the ladder whole this time. But don't try to figure out musical notes, they're more difficult to denote. The scale of direct hits, here we are. The sights are positioned all afar, alongside what we want to hit, and the distances, so you'll get it. Building upon the musical route, musically there you'll shoot. There's a scale, there's nothing finer. Work over it in major or minor. Apex, the key, the path of least resistance. Keep on firing, it's the distance. Direct hit, smaller you make the sights, it won't work out quite right. The whole scale is within a sight's dial, matching up the distance all the while. To get a full hit with great style, have a base point, the root all in profile. The other rungs lay above, with the sights as well thereof. The number of rungs is as much as the lines for our target as such. For every rung, a sight line in scope. The gap, a line we shoot in hope. Up to 200 meters, you'll go.
Wunderbar.
Wunderbar. Did
So-
you want to explain that?
Well, first of all, do you know what AP is?
No.
Armor piercing.
Oh, okay.
You know what HE is?
No.
High explosives.
Okay.
So
I've been dead a while. I don't remember these things.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll give you some credit. Well, we'll give you some slack. We'll give you some slack. So there you go. That's Panzer Ghost doing her basically it's kind of, think of it as the a public service that we're doing, reading poetry, and basically what we're trying to do is bring some class to the show.
I was
All
thinking
right.
I don't know how
I've heard
classy
of too many
this is.
German
This is the
poets.
best
and
poetry I've
Now I
ever
think I
read.
have a better understanding of why.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do better poetry next time.
Maybe. So now this is what we play. At the end, we play. What did we learn?
What did we learn today?
So what did you learn today?
That I can't do a very good cold read.
No. Okay. Well, that's what I learned.
Okay.
But you learned what HE and AP is.
I did. I learned those things. Yes,
There
I
you
did.
go. Jacob, did you learn anything today?
I learned about Borg wards or whatever. I can't say I've ever came across those, but now I'm prepared if I ever see them on the table.
Yep. How about the audience? As you're typing that, remember, make sure you hit the like button or the heart button or any laugh button. Patrick learned that the Borgwarts are sick little puppies. Yes, they are. Also, tell people about the show. Turn other people onto it, so that we can build up our audience. Oh, by the way, to get monetized, you need 10,000 followers. By the way, I don't think there's 10,000. Well, anyway, yeah. Rich learned that Bogwarts go boom good. They do. So once you go type that in there, just as we're getting ready to play out, just go ahead and shoot out your what did we learns. And Ann, you ready to play us out?
Sure, I'll do a little more Oktoberfest and we'll be done with. Unless we want to do the Ghost Division in honor of Panzer Ghost.
What's the Ghost Division?
That's the Sabaton song. Sabaton, the heavy metal band.
Oh, well, why don't you do that?
Okay.
Yeah. So it is Oktoberfest. Everybody. Yeah.
Makes me want to invade France.
Have you heard this before?
No, I can't say that I have.
It's where are they out of?
Sweden.
Sweden. Yes, past to Sweden.
Yep, that Scandinavia would be my guess for the heavy metal.
Yeah. It's a popular band with the Battle Ranking Live Army.
I'm familiar with the band, but not the particular song. I know that they like to do a lot of like historical war things. So.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Be looking for our show over the weekend. We're gonna be. I'll be playing. I don't know how much I'll be coming in and out, but I'll have the cameras running. I'll make some commentary here and there. You'll probably hear me cry mostly. If I could win 3 games, I'll be happy. And Jacob, thank you for coming on and giving your honest opinion about the situation with the mid-war list. And by the way, everyone else, what you can learn from it is that you could see the pattern. Some of the items are pretty much go-to items. So that becomes pretty obvious. Everybody else, if I don't, I'll see you this weekend on the airwaves. If not, I'll be seeing you next week, which we'll be doing a wrap-up of Masters. Anyway, everyone, to have a good one, and talk to you later.